So the effects of climate change are already harming health around the world, and impacts will only intensify in the coming years. There is an imperative for quick action of many fronts, but health are not yet a climate priority on national and international agenda. So, Professor Edward Maybach, you are the director of the Center for Climate Change Communication and senior advisor of the Medical Society Consortium on Climate Change and Health. You are an expert in the uses of strategic communication and social marketing to address climate change and related public health challenges. So, we would be so happy to hear you talking about the call to action that you are working on.
Thank you for the opportunity. When I teach, is my day job. When I teach, I ask my students to put their phones away. But today I ask you to keep your phones out because I'm going to ask you to take a photograph of a slide in about 5 minutes. So for the past 2 days, we've heard many important things. We've heard that we are living in an age of climate change. We've heard that it is exacting a terrible toll on our health, and that toll is almost certain to become worse as we go forward in time. We've learned that to a very large degree, climate solutions are health solutions, and that health solutions in turn are climate solutions. We learned from Agnes.
It works?
No.
No?
I don't need them just yet. I'll continue while this gets set up. We learned from Agnes in the last session that we need collective action to address this problem, and we learned yesterday the most important fact, which is that our most important asset is our trust and our voice. And when we use our voice as trusted professionals, we can, in fact, create collective impact.
You can now.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it works.
Thank you. So, I was asked to share with you what I know about the evidence base for effective public communication. These 11 words contain the totality of the most important points of the evidence base about what works, what has always worked, and what will always work with effective public communication campaigns. Simple, clear messages, repeated often by a variety of trusted voices. I could spend my entire 10 minutes and more just unpacking this for you, but instead I'll simply repeat it. Simple, clear messages repeated often by a variety of trusted voices. You all know the immortal words of Margaret Mead, who taught us that we should never underestimate our ability to work together in small bands, small groups, to change the world. And she said, indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Because the 21st century is a century of mashups. I've taken the mashup of the evidence-based approaches to public health communication and Margaret Mead's wisdom for us. And I would like you to reflect on the fact that we should never doubt that simple, clear messages, repeated often by a variety of trusted voices, can change the world. Allow me to tell you a brief story that is a historical example of exactly this. These 7 men were 7 Soviet and American physicians who formed in 1980, formed the International Physicians for Prevention of Nuclear War. They had their target audience for their campaign was 2 men, Ronald Reagan and Mr. Gorbachev. Their message was incredibly simple. A nuclear war would destroy civilization and might extinguish human life. In 1985, 5 short years after they formed their organization, they won the Nobel Peace Prize for their work. These are the words of Mr. Gorbachev. He said in his autobiography, "Their work commands great respect, for what they say and what they do is prompted by accurate knowledge and a passionate desire to warn humanity about the dangers looming over it. In light of their argument and the strictly scientific data they possess, there seems to be no room left for politicking, and no serious politician has the right to disregard their conclusions." Later, in a personal letter to a member of the founding committee, he said, "I want to thank you, IPPNW, for your great contribution to preventing nuclear war. Without it and other effective anti-nuclear initiatives, this testing ban treaty would probably have been impossible." a few concerned citizens did what otherwise would have been impossible. I contend that limiting climate change to 2 degrees, preferably 1.5 degrees, is the most important public health objective that human civilization currently has. We'll always have Paris, but if we don't defend it, it won't mean much. And even though we have the Paris Climate Agreement, today we only have 50% of the commitments necessary to achieve even the limit of 2 degrees, which, based on the 1.5 degree report from IPCC last fall, is perfectly clear that 2 degrees is not sufficient. 2 degrees will not protect humanity. These organizations, the one I represent, the Medical Society Consortium for Climate and Health, the Climate and Health Alliance in Australia, the UK Alliance on Climate Change, here in the EU, the Health and Environment Alliance, Healthcare Without Harm, which is a global organization, and the organization that many of these organizations helped to found, the Global Climate and Health Alliance. We are currently working to create collective action to defend and strengthen the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement. Our goal is to get the world's leaders to double their commitments to that agreement, to the Paris Climate Agreement. Getting to yes, establishing the agreement was a start. It is not a finish. So our message to them is to avert a sustained public health catastrophe. You, our world's leaders, must double your commitments to global carbon reduction, and you must deliver on those commitments. Failure is not an option. Why do I think that we, a few concerned citizens, can do this? Because we're trusted. You saw that yesterday. We are evidence-based. We speak from that data that Mr. Gorbachev spoke about. We speak with not only scientific authority, but with ethical and moral authority as well. We have the attention of our nation's leaders, and if we don't have it, we can get it. And finally, we, see what I have here? We are free of conflicts of interests. That is not something that most concerned citizens can say. We have no conflicts of interest. We are simply speaking for the thing that our entire professional lives are devoted to protecting. And what I've learned from you over the past 2 days is really remarkable. You are interconnected around the globe. You are an incredible global force for building public will to achieve this incredibly important goal. So my colleagues and I, we invite you to work with us on this campaign. The campaign has not even begun serious planning. We hope to begin serious planning very soon, but we have an important first step to ask of you. And this is where I ask you to take out your phones and take a picture of that link. This is the link where you can sign, you can become an endorser of the Global Call to Action on Climate and Health. This global call to action was first launched last September at the Global Climate Action Summit in San Francisco, and has many endorsers, few endorsers from the Red Cross, Red Crescent societies. So I ask you, as a first step, go to this link, endorse the call to action. I don't have time to walk you through all 10 points in the call to action, but I will point you to the fact that meeting and strengthening the commitments to the Paris Climate Agreement is action number 1. So I close with the words of Winston Churchill, who said, "Owing to past neglect, in the face of the plainest warnings, we have entered a period of danger. The era of procrastination, of half measures, of soothing and baffling expedients, of delays is coming to its close. In its place, we must have a period. We must have a period of action, of determination." I'm changing his immortal words. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Vijay Limaye. You are a member of the Global Consortium on Climate and Health Education. Please, can you explain of the origin and especially the objective of this great initiative?
Sure. Thank you very much. And building on Professor Maibach's mentioning of the trusted voices, we're inviting you today to take part in the Global Consortium on Climate and Health Education to broaden the reach of communication and informed communication on the impacts of climate change on health. Despite this great energy at this meeting and everything that's happening around the world, the community of climate and health researchers and communicators is still relatively small given the scale of the challenge. We need folks who are equipped with the knowledge and tools to move forward, talk about climate change with everyone in the community as an informed member of the medical world. So this society, the consortium was launched in 2017 with the aim of preventing, reducing, and responding to the health impacts of climate change and equipping health professionals around the world with the tools to do that. So there's 5 overall aims of this consortium. First of all, we're asking folks in medical institutions, those training doctors, nurses, and other public health professionals, to sign on and make a commitment to incorporate explicitly climate and health education into their curriculum. It's not being done adequately as of yet, but given the scale of the challenge, it needs to happen in a rapid way. Once those commitments are made, we're asking folks to come together and share best practices in terms of the science and application of climate and health in the medical profession. This consortium is really now focused on building the standards for climate and health education worldwide and offering concrete resources to medical professionals in order to implement those standards and achieve them. So through this effort, we're hoping to build a pipeline of informed medical professionals who can speak to and respond to the threats of climate change on human health. And we're particularly interested in leveraging that expertise to assist the training and development of medical professionals in under-resourced settings. It's a great opportunity to expand research and understanding of impacts of climate and health around the world. So you might ask, where are we at so far? Well, we're actually spanning quite a bit of the globe, right? Almost 30 countries, more than 180 member institutions globally. I'll invite you to check out that URL at the bottom of the slide if you're interested in learning more and joining the growing team of voices, trusted voices, on climate and health. I'll just close with a screenshot of the resource page, which is part of that URL at the bottom. It gives you access to the tools that we're collecting from institutions around the globe, really, interested in integrating climate and health into medical training. Thank you.
And you're also a fellow of the Climate Change and Health Science at NRDC Science Center, so you work on valuation of the health costs of climate change and its role in raising awareness and mobilizing around health issues, right? So how much does climate change cost to our health?
So this is a session about calling folks to action and communicating about the importance of this topic. And oftentimes, if we've seen in the last couple of days, the economic aspects of climate are important to consider, especially from the policymaker perspective. And the question comes up over and over, what is this costing in terms of human suffering? And we can't put a price tag on lost lives and human suffering around the planet. But we know that the magnitude of expenses incurred by folks who are suffering from climate-sensitive impacts is huge. We see this issue highlighted over and over in national and international assessments. So this is a quote from a recent national climate assessment in the United States, drawing attention and made a pretty big media splash in terms of the impacts of climate change on GDP, looking to the end of the century. Unfortunately, right now we're not doing a great job of including health in that conversation. So this is a compilation from the US federal government of what are called billion-dollar disasters over the years, looking from 1990 to present day. And you can see a pretty convincing trend in terms of the climate-sensitive disaster impacts. These are those that meet a pretty high bar, trillion-dollar impacts on property, crops, and infrastructure in the United States. But that doesn't include health. We've seen over and over that infrastructure damages and things that are insured are really easy to count. But when you think about the health impacts of Hurricane Maria, for example, in Puerto Rico, thousands of people dying, right? Thousands of people ending up in the emergency room needing expensive medical care. Those costs are not considered part of the calculation in terms of the costs and benefits of acting on climate change. So we're interested in really compiling strong, defensible estimates of the health damages associated with climate change. And to do that, we've applied a case study approach. So looking at a small subset of fairly recent events in the United States, although we could apply this model internationally, to basically account for how many people died, how many people went to the ER, how many people were admitted to the hospital in each of those events, just to give us a limited sense of what that small subset of events is doing in terms of health costs. So looking at this study, and I'm working right now actively to update it, but this one was published in 2011, looking at 6 key events across the United States. A wildfire in California and a heat wave in that state as well, flooding in North Dakota, an outbreak of West Nile disease in Louisiana, hurricanes that hit the state of Florida, and then national ozone exposures. And these are each sensitive to the effects of climate change. And when you add up all of the health effects from those case study events, you end up with a pretty staggering total. More than about 760,000 encounters with the US healthcare system, and about $14 billion in cumulative health impacts. And that's just from the health impacts that we've been able to quantify, right? So you can imagine that there's all sorts of things, mental health impacts, for example, that haven't been adequately documented in the peer-reviewed literature or in the reports that are available from state and federal government. So this is a research approach not without its challenges, right? We're relying on the underlying adequate collection of health data. And so in order to build the estimates, we really need robust monitoring and surveillance. And really the ultimate challenge here is connecting those case study events to the whole fabric of exposures across the planet in terms of those that are relevant to human health. In effect, we are paying a carbon tax right now. It's a regressive, increasing, inefficient tax, right? It's the tax on all of our health, and it's one that is random. So we need to change our mindset and act on climate to protect public health. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, Dick Terrell. So you are the liaison officer for public health issues of the International Federation of Medical Students Associations. So, how the health students are change maker, and especially if you can talk about the IFMC 2020 initiative.
Of course. Can everybody hear me? Great. So my name is Tarek Zim. I come from Tunisia. It's a country in the north of Africa. And I'm the liaison officer for public health issues of the International Federation of Medical Students Associations. So I wanted to get your opinion about what people think when I tell them that I'm a medical student, but also working on climate change. Usually the response is this. So people get confused because they don't get why a medical student would attend conferences and advocate for climate change. I mean, I have my grandmother who keeps asking me every time if I'm going to become a real doctor. And I keep telling her yes, but she doesn't seem to believe me, so. The IFMC represents 1.3 million medical students worldwide, coming from 123 countries. Every year we advocate for climate change. We go to conferences like Conference of Parties or other WHO or UN conferences, and we express the opinion of medical students worldwide towards climate change and health. Our motto is to think global and act locally. So our structure allows us to have an international board and to communicate with local medical students doing actions in their respective countries, which is agreed mechanism we can do things with. So what have we been doing in terms of climate change? First, we have published this document, which is called IFMC Recommendation for Sustainable and Climate-Friendly Meetings, and we use it to organize climate-friendly meetings because we are hosting many of those during the year. We published the Climate and Health Manual. It has been endorsed by the World Health Organization, and it enables us to teach medical students informally about climate change and health. Then we published the Public Health in Medical Curriculum Toolkit, which is a tool that allows medical students to include public health issues in their respective medical curriculum. Okay, so this is the last thing we've done. It's called the IFMC 2020 Climate Health Vision of Climate Health in Medical Curriculum. It contains 2 goals. The first is to have an element of climate health included in all medical curriculum by 2020. And the second is to have an integration of climate health in all aspects of medical life by 2025. So for now, we published the Climate and Health Manual, so medical students know about the interrelation between climate change and health. And as I said, it has been endorsed by the World Health Organization. We published the Public Health in Medical Curriculum Toolkit, so medical students know how to advocate for the inclusion of this in their respective medical curriculum worldwide. And this has been endorsed by the World Federation of Public Health Associations, but also the World Federation of Family Physicians. Now we are moving on with the report card system. So we actually ran an analysis of which curriculum contain climate change or not, and we're publishing it very soon. And we're going to publish on our website a climate health map in which you can actually access our website and follow which universities teach about climate change and which do not, which we believe will push some universities and schools to teach about climate change in medical curriculum. We collaborate with many organizations because as far as we do things, we believe we are just a dot. And in order to achieve things, we need to connect the dots and work with each other in order to see the bigger picture and achieve bigger accomplishments. So listen, I was wondering, would you be interested in joining our movement? We would be really happy to have you on board, and we would love to see doctors everywhere in this world know about the effects of climate change and be taught about it in their schools. On a personal level, I would have loved to see my school teaching about it, but I found other ways to do so. I will be leaving with 3 key messages. First, youth are the biggest demographics on Earth. We need to take this into consideration when we deal with youth because it's a number of people we can use rather than not work with. Second, the health students of today are the health workforce of tomorrow. Thus, the importance in investing in these people and teaching them and working with them. Last but not least, what you do is affecting the world. And I really believe this because the first time I entered med school knowing nothing about climate change or its impact on health, it was because of one of the workshops of this federation back in my faculty in Tunis that I learned that climate change is the biggest threat of this century, but also can be the biggest opportunity. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Juste une petite question avant de commencer avec Magali Payen, qui, je répète, mais ça que je ne vois pas beaucoup, qui a signé la pétition L'affaire du siècle dans cette salle? Pas mal, Magali. Je suis contente de vous montrer, de vous présenter, si vous ne la connaissez pas encore, le cerveau penseur de derrière. Donc j'aimerais t'applaudir. Merci Magali. Et juste avant, il y a une petite vidéo. Ouais.
Les experts du climat tentent d'alerter
Magali, tu fais une partie intégrante de cette initiative L'Affaire du siècle, du mouvement On est prêt. Est-ce que tu peux nous en dire donc un petit peu plus de tout ça?
Oui, avec plaisir. Donc en fait, cette vidéo, en très peu de jours, elle a été vue 15 millions de fois sur les réseaux sociaux et elle a donné lieu à une pétition qui a récolté en très peu de temps 2 millions d'autres signatures, ce qui en a fait la plus grosse pétition française, ce qui était une surprise parce qu'on ne s'attendait pas forcément à ce qu'il y ait autant de personnes qui s'engagent pour cette initiative, pour une initiative comme ça. Et donc en fait, l'affaire du siècle...
C'est clairement historique, c'est dingue.
Ouais, ben on espère que ça va prendre également dans d'autres pays. Il y a d'autres pays qui sont en train de réfléchir à leur propre affaire du siècle et en fait à faire changer les droits et à intégrer le droit de l'environnement et de la nature dans chaque pays. Et donc en fait, ici effectivement, comme on l'a vu dans la vidéo, un des arguments des avocats, c'est effectivement de s'en référer à la santé et à la protection des populations, parce que comme l'indique la Convention européenne des droits de l'homme, les États ont cette obligation de protéger leur population et la santé de ces populations. Or là, en n'agissant pas suffisamment, eh bien c'est ça qui est mis en défaut. D'où le lien avec notre sujet ici lors de cette conférence. Et donc en fait, cette initiative, elle est née sur le modèle des Pays-Bas, qui ont justement passé les lois les plus ambitieuses en termes d'environnement il y a 3 ans. Et donc c'est Marie Toussaint, il y a 3 ans, notre affaire à tous, qui a eu cette idée d'affaire du siècle. J'ai commencé à l'accompagner à partir du mois de juillet. À l'époque, il y avait une quinzaine de youtubeurs qui très rapidement sont devenus 60, 70, puis 100, ont été rejoints par des sportifs de haut niveau, des chanteurs, des acteurs. Et donc, finalement, ça a été un travail qui a été un travail collectif. C'est la première fois qu'on a...
Better? C'est bon.
Ok. Donc en fait, cette initiative a été un succès, notamment parce que c'est la première fois...
C'est bon.
Ça va?
Ouais. Tu seras bien.
C'est la première fois qu'une telle alliance avait lieu, c'est-à-dire une alliance entre des ONG qui n'avaient pas forcément l'habitude de travailler ensemble et qui n'étaient pas sur le même spectre, des scientifiques et puis des communicants envers le grand public. Et donc en fait, ça a été un travail qui a commencé collectivement à partir du mois de juin dernier et qui a été préparé par cette campagne On est prêt. Donc On est prêt, pour mes mots, c'est une campagne qui s'est déroulée sur 30 jours, qui a commencé par des actions individuelles. Donc chaque jour un youtubeur ou un instagrammeur appelait sa communauté à un challenge à son niveau. Donc en fait, le premier jour, c'était sur la pollution numérique, vider vos boîtes mail, en expliquant pourquoi. Deuxième jour, acheter une gourde pour arrêter les bouteilles en plastique. Et en fait, les défis pendant 30 jours ont été crescendo. Au milieu du défi, on a parlé de la diminution de la viande en interpellant les maires, donc les autorités locales. Et justement, en allant crescendo comme ça, le 30e jour, c'était le grand défi final, grande surprise, attaque de l'État en justice. Et donc, ça a été un peu une stratégie du cheval de Troie, c'est-à-dire qu'on a commencé par des gestes, somme toute, très simples, très joyeux, et c'était très important de conserver cette communication très mainstream et grand public pour embarquer le maximum de personnes, et des personnes qui ne sont pas touchées habituellement. D'où l'importance aussi de prendre des porte-paroles surprenants qui n'avaient pas l'habitude de parler de ces sujets-là.
Est-ce que c'est ça justement la recette, la solution, la recette, d'avoir un maximum d'influenceurs et de personnalités inspirantes pour drainer au minima 2,2 millions de signataires? Mais je pense que ça, c'est rien du tout par rapport à tous ceux qui, même s'ils n'ont pas fait la démarche, et j'en suis sûre, vous en faites partie d'avoir été signataire de cette pétition et déjà engagé en tout cas à faire des petits pas dans ce quotidien. Mais est-ce que tu penses que ces 2,2 millions de signataires, c'est parce qu'il y a eu autant d'influenceurs de plusieurs environnements?
Alors oui, et en fait, ce que disait le professeur Maybach tout à l'heure, c'est très juste en fait. Il faut avoir un message simple, répété dans plusieurs bouches. Et ici, les bouches étaient à la fois les bouches des scientifiques, les influenceurs, et tous ces influenceurs en fait touchaient des millions de personnes au cumulé dans leurs réseaux sociaux.
Dernière question,
ouais.
Ok. Et dernière question, ouais, on doit écourter malheureusement. Là aujourd'hui, on voit Affaire du siècle, Mouvement On est prêt. Non, d'ailleurs, Mouvement On est prêt, Affaire du siècle. Là, l'État est en justice, ça en est où? Quid? On en est où?
Alors, les avocats sont très confiants sur le fait que ça va aboutir. Après, c'est important d'utiliser ça comme un levier de lobbying en parallèle, non pas seulement vis-à-vis des États, mais aussi des industriels. Et en fait, l'État peut s'emparer de cette initiative dans ses négociations avec les lobbies. Donc ça, c'est important aussi de le prendre en compte.
Et maintenant, le next step, où tu en es? C'est quoi ensuite la nouvelle vague? Est-ce qu'il y a un scoop à nous dire?
On est en train de préparer la prochaine campagne, de développer le réseau à l'international sur des problématiques de climat et de biodiversité et de santé. Donc en fait, on cherche des partenaires dans plusieurs pays pour mettre ça en place.
C'est
appel à volontaires.
Appel au public. Merci beaucoup Magali. Et maintenant, nous terminons avec notre showman. Il faut le savoir, c'est notre showman. You are our showman of this Worldwide Humanitarian Conference. Et on applaudit Pablo. On va finir avec Pablo cette merveilleuse table ronde.
5 minutes.
Yeah, I love challenging you.
Good. Thank you for the challenge. I was asked why games. Some of you experienced this yesterday. By the way, if you have doubts, it's really what happened is what happened. I didn't want that to happen, but it happened. Sometimes we need to protect ourselves, even when it looks unlikely. Why games? When we have science that tells us something about the future, whether it's the law of gravity or climate change, sometimes people don't react. And it is my job to find new ways to communicate, to engage. Right now, it seems to me that we are like the couple in this cartoon. It may look like a normal day, but things are changing, and they may become catastrophic very soon. So what can we do to make people stand up and take action? It's going to be hard in 4 minutes, but let's give it a try. Most often, people are sitting. And how can we take action if this is how we are? So we're going to try something new. Are you familiar with the game of rock, paper, scissors? Okay, this is a competitive game. The rock tries to smash the scissors try to cut the paper. We're going to play a collaborative version of this game. Very quickly, you will have 10 seconds to do these two things. You will, when I say ready, set, go, you will find a partner, 2 persons, and be next to each other. If needed, you can form groups of 3, which will make it more difficult. You have 10 seconds, stand up, find a partner. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop and silence. If you don't have a partner, join a duo and you make it a trio, which is more difficult. So here are the rules. In the normal rock, paper, scissors, you're trying to do something different from your partner and beat your partner. Here we love each other. We're trying to collaborate. So your task from now on, perfect silence. No talking, no strategizing. You will do ready, set, go, and you will make a gesture, and you're going to try to match each other, make the same thing. If you succeed, you will shout, yes. If you don't succeed, you try one more time. Okay? Self-organize. What are you going to do? Ready, set, go.
No. Against with that.
If
you fail, try again. Ready, set, go. Okay. Congratulations. Shh. Please bring me your silence. Only one retry. Now we're going to do second round. Same game, but instead of doing a gesture... Sorry, time is up. Same game, but instead of doing a gesture, you're going to say a word, and you're going to try to match your partner. Good luck if you have Anglophone and Francophone. The one word you're going to choose has to be a word that you associate with health and climate change. It cannot be health, it cannot be climate change, and you have only one try. Try to match your partner. What are you going to say? Ready, set, go. Okay. So,
Now we all put out our thing.
may I request your attention, please?
Shelter was the word.
What you have just experienced is a very quick activity that can help us understand what are other people thinking of when we're together for the same reason. You could do this about federation statutes, you could do this about governance and corruption, you could do this about health insurance. And you could collect the words and make a word cloud and show what people are thinking and what we can do about it. I'm going to run through some photos of other games that we have played. This is in the, you may sit down if you want. Zambezi River Basin, farmers in the floodplain. They can't get flooded. We created a game that makes them practice what to do if a flood is coming. Look at that body language. They're really acting, but if you look at their faces, they're really having a great time. Good time helps remember. The game we played yesterday, we could play it with 2,500 people. And people remember, sometimes it's a good idea to protect. Playing with scientists who won the Nobel Peace Prize for their work on climate. Virtual reality. In Togo, water goes up and down. Sometimes it overspills the hydropower dam. Madame Pascal in Geneva ringing the bell to alert the volunteers. But then the vehicle comes and it's empty. You have to stamp the paperwork for money to load it. You can have a great time while learning about forecast-based financing, including the definition of a threshold. How much is too much? NASA, what are the chances of finding a volunteer from Zambia, from a village called Kazungula, population 800, a volunteer from the Red Cross? What are the chances of finding him here? Normally 0, but because we played games with farmers in the floodplain to learn about how to use satellite imagery, our friend Muno from Kazungula, population 800, made it to a NASA magazine. Yours truly in the White House. Hello, my name is Pablo. This is not a frisbee, it is a hurricane. If it hits you in the chest, you're in trouble. Guess what? They started paying attention. 130 people. Why games? Last slide. I promise, madam. Almost always, when we get together, most of our time is all the brains passive and someone giving answers. And the audience is like, but that wasn't my question. What we can do with games is to first plant curiosity, first the desire to learn. What's going on? That's what happened to you when you were beginning to play rock, paper, scissors, or yesterday. First create curiosity, and then help people by themselves discover the answer, discover the aha. Now I know what my friends are thinking. Now I know what I have to do on health and climate change, and so much more. Thank you very much. Thanks for your opportunity.
Thank you so much, Pablo.